Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We will get started in just a minute or two, waiting for a few more folks to log in. So give me about 1 minute. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on virtual collaboration and communication with VRED. I'm Jim Logue with Mesa, and I'm your host for this presentation. We really just have one goal for this webinar, and that is to show you where VRED can be used in any industry, not just the one that it's known for. A couple housekeeping items. Feel free to post any questions in the question section of the GoToWebinar console. We'll review those at the end of the presentation and answer what we can, and follow up if we need to do a little research. Also note that this presentation is being recorded, so sit back, watch, listen. You will get a link in the next few days with the recording, so you can go back and review anything you may have missed. As mentioned, I'm Jim with Mesa, and we are an Autodesk Gold Partner solution provider based out of Pittsburgh. We specialize in product design and manufacturing, as well as industrial design and visualization. We're only one of just a handful of ID&V specialized partners in the US. So with that, we felt that there was a need to break the stereotype and show you how VRED is much more than just some tool used in automotive. For this presentation, I'm delighted to have Lucas Fath with us. Lucas is was part of VRED even before Autodesk acquired the company that had the VRED technology back in 2012, and he has remained part of the VRED team with Autodesk since. Lucas is based out of Germany, and with his depth of knowledge in VRED, we are grateful he is presenting for us today. So let me turn it over to Lucas.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Can you see my screen already?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, then I'll go ahead. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I'm delighted to, as you said, rightfully break with the stereotype that, for whatever reason, manifested in people's heads that VRED is coming from the automotive industry, but it is one of the most powerful virtual reality and digital prototyping tools available on the market. So it's by no means specialized for auto or only usable in the automotive industry. And yeah, that's what we are going to take a look at today. in the next 30 minutes or so. And yeah, as it was already said, please feel free to type your questions. I'll try my best to answer them at the end of the presentation. Yeah, with that being said, let's dive right into it. Okay, so first of all, why am I saying that? Like, why am I so convinced that VRED is useful in all industries? Because if you take a step back and take a look at the challenges, they're pretty similar, right? It's about making daily iteration in product development and trying to stay up to date, review the current state of the digital prototype. It's about the inefficiency of tools for communication. And with that, I don't mean the likes of PowerPoint or Teams or something like that, but the communication around the visual digital twin, because an image of something doesn't doesn't tell you as much as a 3D interactive digital prototype that you can use in virtual reality or in other output formats. So one of the focuses of this presentation, and also one of the core values of VRED, is trying to democratize access to this digital twin to as many people as possible. Then we have the aspect of visual quality. Related to what I just said, it's important if you want to replace physical prototypes that they are looking like the physical one. Otherwise, there's not much or I don't like to that aspect. If it's a visual evaluation that you want to conduct, there's not much meaning to that prototype. Of course, it's also about functionality, but visual representation is a big part as well. It is a challenge to integrate the end customer, and that doesn't have to be a B2C scenario. This could be, or is very likely to be, B2B in many cases, of customers that are using our software as well, into the design process. Very likewise, the stakeholders are not connected, especially if teams are working from home and are dispersed across the world. And the data is highly complex and difficult to aggregate. So big data sets that we need to deal with on a daily basis in that visualization tool. And VCC, by the way, is the abbreviation for the title of the presentation, so Virtual Collaboration and Communication. How does it work? Or what is the concept about? So, of course, we want to connect all stakeholders, or everybody who has to take a look at a digital prototype, with the experts that are building that data, the engineers or the designers. And for that, we're using VRED. So on the lower layer, you can see the product development, the data creation of whatever product you can think of. And then this data will be fed into VRED, can be prepared automatically or manually to represent more than just the geometrical data, but appearance, functionality, so on and so forth. And VRED is helping to then present this data, this single data set, to an audience that is beyond expert users, right? So this is the rough idea behind where VRED is being used in this visual communication and collaboration workflow. And we'll look into details on what that means in a few seconds. Why is it important exactly now? Because at least in a lot of industries, the remaining push for efficiencies is increasing more and more to stay competitive. We all know things changed with the last 3 years, and people are working more from home, not just the people in your company, but maybe even suppliers, I don't know, people you work with, or your customers. It's more than ever important to effectively align stakeholders in the process. Just to give you an example on that, because it sounds very generic, in our customer group, this is the single highest request we're getting beyond, let's say, new feature functionality in VRED in regards to ray tracing or whatever, is this stakeholder alignment, communication, and collaboration aspect. So let's just compare that to rendering features, right? Like this is a bigger request from all of our customers. And there's an engagement required to the end customer. And as I said, in the B2B business, that's one thing, and a pretty straightforward thing. If you're talking about B2C, like in the automotive industry, eventually, right? It can get very complex, and this is where the democratization aspect helps a lot as well. Industry outcomes are very similar as well. So we're talking about experiencing and validating your digital prototype immersively, so in virtual reality or just collaboratively on any device. Could be iPhone, iPad, or tablet, cell phone, desktop, notebooks, whatever you have, or virtual reality as well, and collaborate with all of them in a mixed way. Then decide with confidence. I think this is the important part. If we want to replace physical prototypes, digital prototypes have to be reliable. This is what VRED offers as well. And then the communication part, if that's internally or if that is externally, as we already said, with customers and third parties that you want, like suppliers or other people that you work with. And I brought a quick video that describes generically what VRED is used for in 1 minute, I think. So yeah, just wanted to start off with that.
You build amazing things that move the world forward. But before it's amazing, it's a prototype. Many prototypes that let you see every last detail so you can make every last decision on your design journey with precision. While physical prototypes are necessary, they are expensive, time-consuming, and limited, slowing down your product development processes and your time to market. And with VRED from Autodesk, photorealistic digital models are easy. VRED allows anyone to create digital prototypes so accurate and reliable that you can actually make informed design and engineering decisions at many steps in the development process. VRED quickly transforms huge amounts of complex design and engineering data into compelling, high-fidelity images, animations, and real-time presentations. Visualizations that you can then share in any format to any device with anyone, allowing everyone that's a part of your process, from designers and engineers to marketers and executives, to easily review, showcase, and evaluate digital prototypes from anywhere. So whether you're a small team with a simple process or a large enterprise with a highly complex product development process across many departments, your teams can collaborate better, make decisions faster, and drive amazing products to market sooner. Discover how VRED can accelerate your business. Contact us today.
So I think that was a very high level, but yeah, also accurate description of what VRED can be used for. And this is taking a step back on like the specifics of automotive, let's say, or others, because it's all about the aspects you heard very generically for whatever product. But at the same time, we're coming from auto, and that's great. Don't get me wrong, we want to break with that stereotype, but at the same time, automotive industry is one of the most challenging, one of the most advanced, at least in the visualization, digital prototyping field. That's why we had the ability to learn a lot and grow with the challenges of the core industry that we served in the first years. And now we can apply those learnings to other industries, which is great. So it's not that we want to say we aren't the automotive tool or we're like deny where we're coming from. It's more twisting that to something very positive. This is that where we could learn a lot and apply those to other industries now. So what you can see here, just to describe the video a little bit, is the collaboration functionality we talked about. So this is a full Mercedes with all configurations, with the engine, with everything, and it can be collaboratively reviewed by a few clicks in virtual reality, on a cell phone, on a desktop. Yeah, and made annotations, like provide feedback in the process on the data set itself, and yeah, decide things quicker and more flexible for the different stakeholders in the process. But we'll see some more examples in the next slides or videos. This is also something I wanted to bring as an example from the automotive industry quickly. So this is an XR workflow. VRED, of course, not only virtual reality, but you could also place the data set in the physical environment with mixed reality. This is virtual reality of the quality level that our customers are using it. But also in engineering, as you can see here, I think it's the Audi example. Yeah, it's reachability studies, ergonomics, reflection studies. You can see that they are interactively like touching the car and getting feedback. Again, I think this is reachability ergonomics related. We had the airflow visualization in the car. We can of course draw on top. That's a huge task in automotive. Taping, it's called. So drawing on top of the geometry to indicate changes. This was a collaboration with, let me rewind that a little bit. Collaboration with, live collaboration with Inventor in this case. So the full data set is loaded into VRED, 3 people collaborating, one from a web browser, doing changes in Inventor and updating that in VRED at the same time. We can visualize HMIs, as you can see here. So you can just import the HTML and then go into virtual reality and use your hands in virtual reality to interact with that digital content on a digital prototype. Here you see some XR examples of a virtual camera or our streaming app. So a lot, as you can see, I think that the idea of this video is not that you get every little detail and point, but it's more understanding how versatile the output and presentation options in VRED are, because that's the whole thing of that democratization. You will always have to find the right output and presentation or consumption, way of consumption for a certain persona. For a manager, that's different to an engineer, to a third party that might be outside of your network even. Yeah, complexity of data, something you can see here. So as I said, we work with a full data set, so all variations are saved in one file and can be just switched through and assessed. And this is already like beyond automotive, right? So this is an interior, the material versatility that we are offering in VRED in the AEC space. Yeah, and also this was procedural materials, but that's details that we want to that I just wanted to show briefly, so you know where we're coming from, right? So this is the overview of what has been done in auto and a little bit beyond. But let's talk about, because I think it's important to understand the whole picture, the 3 value propositions of VRED, or not 3 singular ones, but 3 combined values. The first one is, and I'll break that down more easily, right? Like to make it sound easier, it's a pipeline tool that is able to work with huge data sets. And with huge data sets, I mean billions of polygons. So you can throw in whatever you like in regards to the size and be like a full plant with all machines to the smallest bolt and screw. It's not a big deal for VRED to deal with that. That's a huge issue for other applications. So this is something that makes VRED unique, one aspect, right? Like dealing with huge data set assemblies, large files. The second is the accuracy of the rendering and the quality and the performance and scalability of our rendering. So it's accurate, yes, but you can choose. In virtual reality, you might not always need the most accurate rendering mode. You can like change that based on the use case. So you have a variety of accuracy levels to maybe improve performance sometimes when you need it. And then a third aspect to that rendering or accuracy aspect is the scalability. So let's say you have a very demanding scene visually, you can just add more computation nodes from the cloud or local, and we almost scale linearly and speed up the rendering, which is also something very unique for our product. The third pillar is collaboration from anywhere at any time, on any device via streaming. And those 3 in combination make VRED an awesome tool for visual communication, digital prototyping, and decision making. So in the examples we will look at in a second, we will see sometimes all of those 3 are needed, sometimes only 1 is needed, but it is so unique that only our application can serve the purpose. let's say it's just a huge data set, but you don't need extremely high quality in rendering, still, it is the only tool that is able to load this data set and represent it in the ways that you want to collaborate on. For example, right? Automotive industry, of course, where we're coming from, all those three aspects are equally important at any time. Yeah, there's this idea of having one data set and consuming a lot of data. We saw that in the first slide when I talked about the VCC concept. So basically what the idea is, you use VRED as a place to aggregate all the data and assemble a visual or digital twin. And for that, you can import a lot of different file formats, and I have a list with me in the next slide, but of course, a lot of Autodesk products like Max, Maya, Alias, of course, Revit, Fusion, Inventor, but also a lot of CAD files, which again, we'll take a look at in a second, even for like also from third-party companies. And then beyond, let's say, geometry and like scene files, there's also other elements like materials. We have a huge amount of different material libraries that you can choose from, and third-party suppliers for accurate materials or for procedural materials that VRED can read, or even assets that you might need, like, I don't know, trees, plants, other things that you want to just put into the scene to make it more lifelike. All of that is assembled in VRED. And the great thing then is you can use that one scene. So you build it once, you create it once. This could be used in a very versatile way. So all the different use cases we saw in that very quickly in that big video that I talked over in the beginning can be achieved with that one file, right? So you don't need a file for virtual reality and another one for the desktop review. You're using the same file. Everybody collaborates from the same, independent of the device. So it could be on mobile device, tablet, or an ultrabook, something that cannot compute the image on its own. But it could also be on desktop, Powerwall, like a big presentation scenario. In extended reality, and this could be any HMD, any head-mounted display that you know of, or even this virtual reality or virtual camera tablet-based experience. And then, of course, you can use VRED to create assets like images and animations. Like that's natural, right? You can render out marketing images or animated clips. And the great thing is all of that can be done in collaboration based on the same file. So this is not an isolated workflow. This is something that everybody can do together, jointly. Yeah, I just talked about the file formats we can import. I just grabbed that from our webpage. So you can see it's a lot. As this is recorded, maybe you can spend some time later and check if your predominantly used creation tool format is part of it. But the biggest ones are, right? Like an NX, CATIA, JT, iGestStep, but also more specific Autodesk formats or exchange formats like FBX or OBJ. Yeah, so it's a lot. Feel free to stop the presentation at this point and just take a look at if yours is on that as well. And also, as I said, if you just Google for file formats Autodesk VRED, you get to that web page as well and get the full overview. So again, going back to what I described in the beginning, this is a bit of a repetition, but to make clear like how the workflow looks or the solution value cycle looks. You create, like you create today, with all the different elements. You bring all those elements into VRED, collaborate on it, create your assets, whatever, use them for your communication workflow and collaboration workflow, and then use the feedback that you get, like an error identification or a positive one, like a sign-off or a change of the design, a change request, and feed that back into the creation process, and then repeat that cycle. And of course, there's a reference mechanism from VRED onto the creation. So whenever somebody updates the Inventor file, VRED notices that automatically, and you can just, by click of a button, you can reload that file into the VRED scene, so you don't need to like re-import that manually and do all the steps over and over again. So this is a great cycle where the information is transferred nicely and efficiently and doesn't get lost. We have different products, and I'll just quickly talk about those on that slide. So on the upper part, you have the desktop products, which is Presenter, VRED Design, and VRED Professional. One note here, they have different price points, very different price points. So yeah, it's always important to evaluate which product do you need for your workflow. Because, for example, you could do virtual reality with a Presenter, right, which is very cheap compared to Professional. Sometimes that is something that people don't spend the time on, and they just go for VRED Professional, which might not always be needed. Of course, that's the one with the biggest feature set, but I just wanted to call that out. There's different flavors of VRED with different price points. So on the top, we have the desktop products. On the lower part, we have the cloud or server products. So those are without a UI. So basically, those can be used on the cloud, or you can build your own custom interfaces on top of them, and then use streaming to deliver the content to an end device like a mobile device, or whatever browser-based application you want to feed with VRED rendering and VRED visualization. So we wanted to break down quickly the capabilities of those three products as well. So Presenter is just a viewer. So it's basically a render window, the render window of VRED. You can load a VRED file, tumble around, navigate in Steam, change variants, stuff like that. It has rasterization and ray tracing, so has both like CPU ray tracing and rasterization. It can do XR and desktop, and it's customizable. So it has an API. While I said it is just a render window, of course you can put an HTML overlay on top to make it easier to change variants or to do other things and interact with it. Second product is VRED Design. This is the lower tier authoring product. Provides basic authoring tools and review capabilities. You can prepare your data with that. You can do a basic design review, and you can create assets that you can use along the way. And then we have the full or the highest tier desktop product, which is VRED Professional, which has the full feature set. This can be used for everything we just talked about, plus advanced authoring and review tools, creating high-end visualizations, advanced marketing images, and more complex visual prototypes. Also Python development. Maybe one thing that was asked in advance as well. How's Python working between design and professional? Design is limited in regards to editing Python. So scripting in design doesn't work. This only works in VRED Professional, but design can read scripts that are in a VRED file. So if you script something in Professional once, and then the rest of your team wants to use design, they just can open the file, and VRED Design reads the script that's in there. They can just not edit it. But in most cases, you don't want to do that anyways. One person is writing the script for everybody, and then the others just have the pleasure of using it, let's say. Yeah, VRED Pro has this digital control model concept that I talked about, this one master or main file control, central control file. It has advanced analytics capabilities visually, but also functional to a certain extent, and automation customization. We just talked about that with Python. And it can export something that is called VRED Go, which is a VRED executable. So how does that workflow look like? You basically go to VRED Professional, prepare your data set, and then you can export this VRED Go executable. You can send that to somebody else. It is protected, so they cannot extract the data set that is in it. And they double click on it. They don't need a VRED license. It's opening. They can, and then like from opening, it is very much like Presenter. That is a render window that they can navigate around, change variants, and that kind of stuff. So this is like a packaged state of a scene that you can send to somebody for collaboration, to provide feedback. Again, this is all serving the bigger need of having a base for discussion and collaboration. And with base, I don't mean image, but a 3D interactive scene that people can use. Yeah, but we wanted to talk about some examples today beyond auto, and we brought them. So different areas that we like split that into. in terms of functionality and focus, let's say, for the different areas. So we have design review and training on the two upper parts with the factory and the heavy machinery you can see on the upper left. Then we have environments in the biggest sense, right? Like the factory around that you can see in the upper right image. Then like a store, sales application, sales store, interior on the lower right. Aesthetics and emotion, important for apparel, luxury goods, so on and so forth. And then configuration, like what you saw earlier with the car, where all the configurations are stored. This applies to some of the industries as well. So we split like that: industrial machinery, buildings, factories and plants, retail, point of view. And this, again, it's just some proposals. If whatever you are trying to do with VRED is not part of it, I'm sure it's still possible, right? So I want to avoid building a second stereotype that only those 4 areas work for VRED. That's why we just picked a lot of examples to show you today, from AEC to industrial machinery, everything. So this is the store that we just saw. It's very important to get different configurations done, to experience the store before it's built. So the whole planning process can be done here. You can go to virtual reality, have a person walk through it, tell the designer what they liked, what they didn't like. You can evaluate where the person is looking to make sure that, I don't know, like the product that you want to place in the most obvious way is in the most obvious place of the shop, so on and so forth. You can plan lighting. VRED is very accurate in lighting. I think I don't have to say that based on the discussion or the presentation we just had, right? So all the lighting is physically accurate, so you can plan it out in advance to make sure that your products are lit in a nice way. And of course, configure, experience lighting and plan that. Lighting is so advanced or so close to simulation that it's used for the headlight, like the automotive headlight simulation or visualization. And therefore, we also have different ways of showing it, right? It's not just the beauty image, but it's also intensities, heat maps on where the most light is, and how bright it is at different spots of the scene. For that, we use a technology called ray tracing, which VRED is one of the leading tools in the whole, the whole world. Also, in this case, something that you can see at the lower part of the image, the scene contains 31 individual lights, but those lights are cloned or are represented in the scene 2,144 times. This is huge for computation, right? So again, large data sets while being accurate. So the values we talked about in the beginning. But also the flexibility, right? Like metadata and configurations. In this case, we have this, I think it's a huge grocery store or home supplies or something. And we get all the bin data in and we can filter for it. Let's say we just want to filter for some shelves that only come from a certain supplier or from a certain provided by a certain company. We can search for them and then filter for them that we only show those. So all the bin data comes in and can be used however it's desired for the use case. You can also automate with that, of course, right? It's about creating selections and then isolating or creating actions based on that. Something that we presented at AU, Autodesk University a few years ago, is this whole area about kitchen appliance. So yeah, it's very similar. It's an interior-based, high-quality visualization, flexible, configurable setup that we built based on this kitchen configurator. The cool thing here, it wasn't just the configurator or the kitchen itself, as you can see. This kitchen is built in the house itself. So to the point of VRED is eating geometry or data and doesn't care about it in terms of performance. We can even, in this case, we even added the whole house and the environment, although it was barely visible, right? Because it didn't matter. And I think that's the great thing, because sometimes you build let's say a factory, right? But you only want to inspect one part, like of a assembly line, and you don't need to delete all the rest or isolate this part. You can just go into the scene and review everything in context. In this case, it's Revit, Inventor data, Fusion data, and then everything goes into VRED. We even got stuff from Maya Max, Alias, some other third-party applications as well. So I think a great example of this one central control model. But also here is it's a extended reality demo that we showed on the factory event. I think it was in Germany. Yeah, so what you can see here, again, we have the full functional factory. You just saw it moving in that one clip quickly. And you can basically, we are tracking that, and you can use the tablet as a virtual camera, walking around the space and taking a look at the setup. This is cool for this small model, as you can see it here, but this is really useful if you plan out a full factory or a huge product, and you want to see that in the environment it will later live in, like the house, like the actual factory building, but you didn't build the assembly lines and everything inside. You can already do that and look at it virtually, plan it out. And same for, I don't know, big heavy machinery. You can place that at a spot where they are finally will be doing their job, let's say. That's outside or inside, doesn't matter, as long as you have the connection to 5G, which is important here in this use case, or local network where you can stream that. So this could be any type, could be one-to-one scale, could be, as in this case, a smaller representation mapping to the real world scale. For factory planning, we talked about that. We just saw it. It's just a different way of showing it. Again, here we have the full factory. We have all the, in this case, it's a packaging machine, I think. So all the machine elements. If you go and zoom in, you can see all the bolts and screws of that machine as well. And again, you can collaborate in there. So those two guys are just there collaboratively working in virtual reality in that environment. But of course, you can also walk around there, remove or move machines, talk about different placing of those machines, and most importantly, experience it, right? Sometimes it's very important to also just see from first-person view in 3D how the actual thing will look like at the end. Heavy machinery or industrial machinery, again, this is a huge data set. I think, let me check the facts here. This is a 1 billion triangle scene, 30,000 parts of an assembly from Inventor, put in an environment that is even bigger, like all those, as I said, those assets, like the small grass elements and the stones and everything. So you can see and visualize how it will look like later. Of course, this is a fancy, let's say, fancy visualization, right? It's in the environment that it will be used in later for the purpose it will be used to, this trenching machine. But yeah, it's just a way to visualize it. Of course, you can do all the reviews, all the elements in a more neutral environment as well. But I think in this case, for us, it was interesting to see it in the actual, how it will be used, right? This whole thing is still, but just because we wanted it to be, this could be fully functional, animated, wouldn't be a problem as well, right? So you could move all the parts and look at them while they are running, or even train somebody in virtual reality sitting in the cockpit or whatever that part is called and running the machine, right? Speaking about training and ergonomics in that field, this is a customer example from a company called Yugong and DG Design from UK, which worked for them. And they designed those products or machines with a big focus on ergonomics, like where people are sitting, is it reachable, can they see everything? So they did a lot of additional evaluations around visibility checks. If you sit in that cabin, can you still look and see all the, I don't know, the stuff that's happening right in front of the machine, for example. So But yeah, eventually it's also about aesthetics and design, but it's also a lot about functionality checks, ergonomics checks, visibility checks that have been conducted with that in that project for that to reach that design, right? Like to change the glass parts and whatsoever. And as I said, all of that's functional, can be animated, as you can see here. Another example is this oil rig that we put in. So again, huge data set, all the lights working. Yeah, it's very similar, let's say, from the challenges point of view to the things we just discussed, right? It's a large model, doesn't necessarily need highest visual accuracy and materials and stuff, but it helps to visualize, it helps to check the functionality, and the light visualization is important as well to check elements of the planning, the design, and the layout of this facility. Yeah, something I'll just quickly go through is luxury goods. Of course, this is a perfect fit for VRED with the high accuracy and the materials that we have. Also, very specific things like dispersion effects and caustics that are generated with visualizing diamonds in luxury goods. So something that VRED is very good at, because that is something that's needed for the headlights in the automotive industry as well. And then, of course, apparel and footwear, something that is, because of the high accuracy and high quality of rendering of VRED, is easy to do as well. So with that being said, I wanted to get back to where we're coming from and closing off with some of the examples from the from the automotive industry. See, turn it off, because it's showing pretty nicely how the use cases are, right? So please exchange this car with anything that your company is working on. You can go into extended reality. As I said, this is their design facility of Rivian. They put the car in there. You can interact with your displays, with buttons, with can change variants of the data set in virtual reality. You can collaborate. Of course, you can also just put it on a regular display, right? Might have not talked about that too much, but of course that's possible as well. So all of that can be mixed up, and people can collaborate on the same data set, on the same source of truth for that, which is, as I said, making VRED a very unique product. That's it from my side. So let me check for the main part of the presentation at least. Let's see, Jim, do we have questions? If not, I encourage everybody, of course, to put their questions in the chat.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll do my best to answer.
We got one here. Talk a little bit about, you showed kind of the design review, and you called it, in the automotive industry, you called it taping, where it looked as if you could mark up the 3D model. And I think the question is that done in VR mode, or is that just done on the desktop mode, or either? Where is that markup or that taping actually performed?
Yeah, so you can see that in the video right here, in that part of that Rivian video where they put it on the car, and basically it's on one hand it's taping, but it's also drawing. So you could also just draw in the air, but it could also like be pulled towards the surface of a digital prototype, as you can see it in this example here. This is done in virtual reality predominantly. I think in this example, this is a plugin from our consulting department. So it's not coming standard with VRED. It's something that our consulting built, in this case for Rivian. That being said, and I have to be careful on what I state about future developments and things in VRED. It's something that we really like the way they build it, and yeah, I think I need to it's something that we're currently looking at because we're very interested in how this could look like in our application. But yeah, the first application area for that is in virtual reality, drawing in 3D space or taping in 3D space, annotating in 3D space.
Okay, understood. That was currently the only question. Was there any other questions anybody want to post in the question section? Just give that a minute, and maybe just to kind of
Yep.
wrap up, I want to thank you first off, Lucas, for taking your time to give us that great presentation. I think it opened some eyes up, hopefully, to all the different places we can use. I call it VRED still. You call it VRED.
It's fine.
Got
That's fine.
it. So definitely greatly appreciated, and hopefully we've enlightened everybody who's attending on some of the places where it can fit in your industry. If you have any questions or need any follow-ups, please don't hesitate to reach out to your Mesa sales rep or Mesa in general, and we'll get you to the right person, and we'll be more than happy to help you along and see if VRED's has a place in your company. So let me just kind of scroll down here. No other questions. Last call, anybody? Again, you will receive a link for this video so you can go back and watch it. And I want to thank everybody for attending. Greatly appreciate it. Lucas, again, thank you so much. And wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same from my side to everybody. Thanks for taking the time listening in. Thank you for having me. And yeah, have a great week of rest. Great holiday.
Great. Thanks, Lucas. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.